This co-hosting business has the ability to be a multi-million-dollar business for people just like you and I, the small operators in the space. We had another woman, her name's Lynn. A year ago, had one property of her own. Today, she has over 50 properties. So there's a huge, huge opportunity to grow because I've done it and I've watched other people do it. When I started off is that I was chasing people. I was chasing the people that I wanted to work with. That's not the way to do it. When you start to show and not tell, you start attracting people. You're not chasing anymore. If I'm able to get these clients to come stay with me, I can go to other avatars. And I hate that word avatar, dang it. I don't even know why I said that right now, but I did. I mean, say it out loud. Avatar. Guys, go ahead. So annoying. I don't know why you guys are doing that. I'm in California. Most of my properties are in California. In California, you could jump through somebody's window and become a tenant of that home. Like, literally. How many of you guys are doing 5 figures a month with your co-hosting business? Stay standing up. 20,000 a month, standing up. 25,000 a month, 30,000 a month, 40,000 a month, stay standing up. Are you guys messing with me right now?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, man, we got some more value, we got some more energy, we got some more stuff. We got some more stuff for you guys. So let's just, how was the first half of the day? Like, are we getting some big value? So, of course, being brand new into the space, this stuff is, I mean, you're just drinking from a fire hose. But say you have 100 units. Say you're operating a big portfolio. It's those little tweaks that are going to make you better. It's those little adjustments here and here that are going to keep you on top, keep you moving forward, keep you where your business is going to continue to scale to be better and then scale to be bigger. But second half of the day, we got some more stuff, and we're gonna bring back to the stage our fearless MTR leader, Jesse Vasquez. Come on, let him hear you. Let him hear you. Woo! Oh, you got chairs?
No, I'm just gonna put my drink on there. I wanna have my drink.
Let him hear you, ladies and gentlemen, one more time for Jesse Vasquez. Come on.
Can I get my clicker? You guys have my clicker? You guys have the clicker there? Somebody bring me that? You guys are freaking awesome. I don't know who picked this spot for me to eat, or after you guys have lunch for me to speak, because like I know I want to take a nap right now. Are you guys awake? You sure? That's a really nice picture of me. I wish I looked like that in real life. So. You guys, today I'm going to be talking about co-hosting. How many of you are actually co-hosting in the space right now? Let me see you raise your hands. Let me see. Keep them up high. Stand up, actually. Stand up if you're co-hosting now. You guys, take a look around you right now. Every single person is not standing up. You guys are missing out on a tremendous opportunity, and I'm going to tell you why in the slides. You guys can sit down now. I see a lot of my students standing. Mike, I see Mike over there, who's killing it in Phoenix. Freaking awesome. So, you guys, I bought my first property in 2015, which is this house right here. And when I look at it, it gives me something. I realized that I didn't blow the leaves off that roof before I decided to take the picture. But I'm not going to get on a roof. Anybody knows me is like, that guy's not going to get on a roof, especially with a blower. Like, I'm not doing that. But this property right here, I bought it in 2015, and I had no initial experience with short-term, mid-term, nothing. In fact, it wasn't even cool back then. Like now it's cool to be like an operator and stuff. So, but the crazy thing about this, you guys, you've all heard me talk about this before. I'm not going to go too much into it. But I got my property before I even had a client, or I had a client before I got the property, which is insane. So I ended up connecting with AMN Healthcare, got this property, searched for it, and ended up getting it. And one of the most important things is that I realized that that one property, once I started doing well, I would tell everybody about it. I'd be like, cashier at Rayleigh's, Nob Hill, for those of you in San Diego. I'd go through and be like, I got a short-term rental, mid-term rental, beep. And they would look at me like, whatever, dude. But the reason why I did that is because I started telling people about what I was doing. Back then, there wasn't a lot of people operating like that. And I started having people that were like, hey, dude, how are you doing that? They actually did call me dude. They were my friends. And that's when it sparked to me, like I can have one property, I can grab somebody else as the cashiers at Nob Hill, and I can turn her property into profitable mid-term rental or a short-term rental by co-hosting. And the crazy thing about that is that So many people have the ability to grow. How many of you guys have one property right now? Raise your hands, just one property alone. There will be time where people will come to you guys and ask you if you can co-host. It's a natural progression. So what I did is I started managing my own property, and I quickly shifted to co-hosting other people's properties. And that's when I realized, like, holy smokes, there's a lot of opportunity here, but I didn't understand business. I was operating blindly. I didn't know that co-hosting was a thing. Back in 2015, it really wasn't a thing. And it started to progress, and I saw that, and I was making all these moves, and I was creating unique offerings for other groups, like travel nurses and stuff. So nobody was doing that. And I was unknowingly building a business. And the crazy thing about that is I was doing things outside of Airbnb. How many of you are getting more than 50% bookings without Airbnb? Raise your hands. 50% or more without Airbnb. Stand up for me. Give yourself a round of applause. That is awesome. You guys are killing it. 50% or more outside Airbnb is fantastic. There's not a lot of people that are doing that, except for in this room, which is why you guys are here right now. For those of you that didn't stand up, there's a good potential for you to grow in this space. So you have to look outside that. And for me, my target markets at that time in 2015 were travel nurses. You guys heard about AMN Healthcare. I went into the hospital floor. I talked to them about how can I help you guys? What's the need? I saw that. Barbara, they had the awesome accent. You guys heard me talk about that? She said things like, don't you know? Who's actually got the accent here? I want to hear that. Anybody? North Carolina or North Dakota, anybody? Don't you know? She was saying things like that, and I realized, like, first off, I wanted to hang out with her because she had a cool voice, and I just love cool voices. So anybody who has a cool voice, please come talk to me, which most of the people I met have cool voices tonight, by the way, or today, by the way. But I realized that there's a lot of opportunity in essential workers. And not only that, but I realized that if I'm able to get these clients to come stay with me, I can go to other avatars. And I hate that word avatar, dang it. I don't even know why I said that right now, but I did. It's just an annoying word. I mean, say it out loud. Avatar. Guys, go ahead. So annoying. I don't know why you guys are doing that. So I realized that there's opportunity for us to go after these travelers. At that time, just like Jeff mentioned a while ago from Furnish Finder, this co-hosting business has the ability to be a multi-million-dollar business for people just like you and I, the small operators in the space. We have the ability to do that. I have a co-hosting business. I have people that we've worked with that are growing their co-hosting businesses, and what they're doing different is they're going after specific target markets. And let's see. Yep, is exactly what I was talking about. Local connections. How many of you guys are connecting with local companies in your own backyard? Let me get a raise of hands. Actually, can I have you stand up again? Guys, look around this room right now. Stay standing up. That's not very many people. Everybody else is sitting down right now. You need to stop sitting on your hands.
Well, you're going to tell us how, right?
Maybe. I might tell you guys how. Maybe, possibly. But partnering with other companies was a massive need for me, and I realized that opportunity. Keep in mind, you guys, I worked in healthcare. My job was to go into these companies and talk to people and say, hey, I had to basically befriend people in these facilities and companies. And it's essentially the same exact thing. If we're able to serve people, you're going to be able to grow a business. And I think that a lot of times we don't necessarily look at that because we're trying to line our pockets, which is great, we need to. But this is a service-based industry. We're in hospitality. You have to be able to think about somebody else other than yourself. And I think that's a big backbone of what we're doing. And one of the things about co-hosting, too, is that you're able to get steady streams of income with having co-hosting properties, especially if you only have one or two or three. And you don't have to have any money to start a co-hosting business. In fact, how many of you right now in this room have a co-hosting business and you don't own any properties at all? Can I have you guys stand up? Who does not own a property at all, but they have a successful business? Yes. Hang on, stay up, guys, stay up. Look around, you guys. How many of you guys are doing 5 figures a month with your co-hosting business? Stay standing up. 20,000 a month, standing up. If you're not making 20, sit back down. 25,000 a month, co-hosting, standing up. 30,000 a month, stay standing up. 40,000 a month, stay standing up. Are you guys messing with me right now? Because I'm going to go to 60 now. All right, you sat down. We go. So right around $50,000 to $60,000 a month. How many of you can live off $50,000 or $60,000 a month? Say aye. You guys didn't say that in sync. Say aye. Aye. Okay, so you guys can live on $60,000 a month. Trust me, I would love that. And I want you guys all to be able to do that. And I do freaking believe that that's possible for every single one of you. It truly is. What separates Mike Stone from everybody else? I can almost guarantee you it's one of two things. Mike's going to pick up the phone. He's probably going to make 100 calls to a bunch of different people in 1 week. Mike, am I right? That is true. 100 phone calls. How many of you guys say you're going to make calls, but then you only make 2 and you're just like, I'm done? There's a big difference between those two things. And that's what you have to be able to do when you're building this business. The other thing that I like about co-hosting, again, as I mentioned, no money. How many realtors do we have in this room? Stand up, because I'm not good with hands. I can't see these light brights everywhere. I want you guys to be seen. Realtors. Do you guys realize the opportunity you have if you're able to co-host other people's properties? First off, you have a brokerage license already, which puts us that don't have a brokerage license in a different category. You guys right now standing up have the biggest potential, and Jeff talked about this earlier, to make something significant. In fact, I think you all in this room right now that are realtors, Vivian's doing that. She's in the back there. Vivian, put your hand up. She's doing it in Austin, Texas. She grew her business literally by connecting with investors. Freaking awesome. Where's Rebecca from my mentorship? Rebecca, where are you at? You guys can sit down. Let's get Rebecca to stand up. Rebecca, where are you at? There she is. There, Rebecca over there. Rebecca grew. She came into our course, didn't really know much about midterm rental. She's a realtor and built her business off of the backbone of understanding how to operate midterm rental. She did it herself. She was able to show and not tell and built her business. Right, Rebecca? She's back there not listening to me. It's okay. I forgive you. Awesome, you guys. There's a lot of potential in that. So I do believe that there's a huge, huge opportunity to do that. One of the things about co-hosting that I can tell you guys right now, which helped me build my co-hosting business, I like to walk into places and just knock on the door and ask them questions. And this is what I did. I went to every real estate agent's office in my backyard. I went in and said, hey, what days are your guys' weekly meetings? And I'll just give you an example. They said Tuesday. Cool. Do you mind if I come in and talk about a way that your realtors can make more money by co-hosting other people's properties or allowing me to co-host their properties? How many of you are willing to go and do an office right now, a local real estate office, and start talking about what you guys are doing? Let me see a raise of hands. Okay, you guys are going to be successful, then just raise your hands. You have to go in, you got to become the person in your market that everybody's going to know about midterm rentals. You got to brand yourself. You have to brand yourself, and it starts in your market. That's how it started with me, you guys. Midterm rentals, short-term rentals. I went and talked to every single agent, had meetings, we did these kinds of things, but with 20 people in there, and I talked about how I was able to bring opportunity for them. And guess what started happening? They'd pick up the phone, an investor would call them, they'd say, hey, I got a guy that can do this, and guess what I became? The guy in the market. So it's really, really important. If you want to build your co-hosting business, you got to get out and talk to people. You got to let them know what you're doing, how you're operating. Financial outcomes. We just talked about this a minute ago. There is a huge opportunity to make money in this space. We just saw Mike Stone, $55,000, $60,000 a month. Another guy in the back. Was that Christian? I don't know if it was him or not. Is that you, Christian? Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that's crazy amount of money, you guys, in a month by literally not even owning a property. Let that sink in without owning a property, but they're running their place like a business. And let me give you guys an example. Co-hosting fees. Jeff said it earlier, 15 to 25%. That's typically where you run around with co-hosting. If I get a $10,000 booking for a client, say the insurance claim or a temporary housing claim, that's $2,000 a month for me. Imagine if I have 5 of those. That's my $10K a month right there. Even if it's half of that, still $1,000 a month. Do the math on that. You guys get 10 properties to co-host, there's your $10K at $1,000 a month. It is 100% possible because I've done it and I've watched other people do it. So there's a huge, huge opportunity to grow that end with co-hosting. Nobody talks about this ever, and this is my favorite thing about co-hosting. In fact, co-hosting saved my ass a few times. Literally, like saved my ass. And the reason why that happened is because when you have a midterm rental, there's sometimes that your midterm rental doesn't get booked. It's part of the game. If you guys are here thinking your midterm rentals are going to be booked 100% all year long, there's a door back there. You can walk through it because it might not always happen. In fact, it's probably not going to happen. But guess what I was able to do with co-hosting? I was able to cover my bills for those properties that I had because I was able to co-host. So it's a hedge against potentially your own properties that aren't getting booked, and that's what I really love about it. Now, if you start to think about businesses on, if I need to get my car paid, what can I do to do this? What my house paid for whatever reason, what can I start to be able to cover that? That's what co-hosting was to me without even realizing it, like I talked a minute ago. Not only that, but the more doors you have, the more opportunity you have. And I think that's really freaking fantastic. And not only that, but it gives you more opportunities with other folks that you're connecting with. Student wins, I just talked about this a minute ago. And this is why I stand up on these stages right now and talk to people and get you guys all together. There's people that come in that have no clue on how to do things. They understand it. They start to figure it out. Things start to go into place. The community, which is you all here, connect and help each other. That's what we want to do. That's what builds success for other people, not only yourself. David, if you guys watch my YouTube channel, David has been able to grow 5 figures a month. He's actually almost about to hit 6 figures a month. He probably already has. And he co-hosts properties all over the place. In fact, he's been buying properties this year because he's making so much money. And he doesn't own any of those properties in his backyard. He was a real estate agent. He said, how do I figure out with this down economy how to make additional income? Guess what he did? Anybody? Co-hosting, yep. So co-hosting saved him. Real estate became difficult about 8 months ago for a lot of people, a year ago. Realtors, am I right? It's not as easy as it once was, and that's what he's able to do. He's able to pivot quickly. He saw the opportunity, he jumped in class, he figured stuff out, and he was able to build a business outside of his own backyard, which I think is awesome. We had another woman, her name's Lynn, and she was able to build a 5-figure business in the Bay Area of California, which is expensive as heck. Guess what people wanted? They wanted to make more money than long-term rent, because you buy a property in the Bay Area right now, it's freaking difficult to make money off it. The 1% rule does not exist. In fact, a lot of the United States, that doesn't even exist. So, generating 5 figures a month, she connects with local companies in her own market, so she was able to go out, talk to, like just Jeff was talking about earlier, the Googles of the world, small businesses. You guys have heard me go where I drive over to like the Dave & Buster's places and I figure out people that are working in those places. How do I save them money? That's exactly what she did. A year ago, had 1 property of her own. Today she has over 50 properties, which is freaking amazing. And she's continuing to build. Left her W-2 job and is making things happen. So you guys are probably thinking like, well, what do I actually need to get started in co-hosting? This is my toolkit right here, you guys. This is what I use. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing out of the ordinary. I use IGMS, like Hospitable. There's a bunch of different platforms, right, for property management. That's what I've been using for quite some time. Turno, you guys have heard of them, right? Cleaners come out. That's what they do. Furnish Finder. I was able to build my business off the back of Furnish Finder by connecting with unmatched leads. So Furnish Finder, Turno, IGMS, that's what I've been using. That's my tech stack for this. And a simple Google Sheet, because I got to make sure I take care of everything. Google Sheets are cool, you guys. I don't care what anybody says. They are cool. So I use Google Sheets. But I think what's most important, you guys, is the 2 things that it's going to happen with you when you start this business. You're going to start on your own. You're going to have your first property. It's going to get booked. And you don't want to be the guy or gal sitting on your hands waiting for other people to come till they leave, till they exit, till they move out of your house. You have to be thinking about how am I going to be able to create a service? And this is a second way to do that. It's a vertical within the own ecosystem of midterm rentals. So if you're not even thinking about co-hosting now, there's going to be a point where it's just going to happen naturally. In fact, anybody that started co-hosting where it happened naturally, lift your hands up. You didn't even mean to co-host. It all of a sudden just started happening. I see Bailey right here. He's got his hand up. He talked about it. We had you on the podcast a while back. He talked about that. It naturally starts to happen. That's up to you guys to start to build on that end. To go from self-managing to managing, co-hosting other properties, and that essentially will become a lot of revenue. But again, how do you do it? Start figuring it out. You have to start figuring out who am I going to talk to? How am I going to get clients? And I've heard people tell me that all the time. Jess, I want to co-host, but who do I go talk to? I just told you guys right now, go into realtors' offices. Talk about what you're doing, how you're operating. Talk to the checkers, check stand people. What are they called? Checkers, yeah, in Nob Hill, like I just mentioned a while ago. Tell everybody about what you're doing. Because if you don't tell anybody, then nobody's going to know, and you're not going to be able to attract anybody. And one of the biggest things that I've seen happen for me when I started off is that I was chasing people. I was chasing the people that I wanted to work with. That's not the way to do it. When you start to show and not tell, guess what starts to happen? You start attracting people. You're not chasing anymore. So you become the go-to person in your market, and guess who starts coming to you? The leads. Did that happen, Mike, to you? Where did Mike go? Did he leave? No, he didn't leave. He's somewhere around there. But anyway, that's what happens, you guys, is people will start to have, they'll start to say, who's doing that? How are you doing it? How am I able to help? That's where your cohosting business starts off. It starts off by having that mindset. I'm going to go out, I'm going to talk to people, I'm going to start building, I'm going to start connecting with people, I'm going to start making landlords more money because they're not making any money. I'm able to get money myself, but obviously they don't want to they don't want to go out and do the work because this is a lot of work that gets that's involved in this. So that's how you can save these landlords. First off, you're taking care of their house too. Houses are not jacked up like they are when you have long-term renters, right? It's a business, you have to make sure that the house is taken care of. Happens all the time. So for me, you guys, co-hosting is one of the best ways to get your own bills covered if for whatever reason they don't get booked. And again, as I talked about before, you don't get booked. But as I talked about before, you're eventually going to get to the point where you're not going to get a booking. Do you have the funds to cover that? In fact, with you guys in this room right now, let me get another raise of hands of who has 6 months of your mortgage payment if your property does not book. Let me see a raise of hands. And don't be shy about this, you guys. If you have 6 months, keep your hands up. You guys look around this room right now. Okay, you can put your hands down. Who has 3 months? But you guys already kept your hands up with 6, so you can't do that. All right, never mind. I'm just going to scratch that. What I was trying to show you guys right now is that most people that get involved in this space, even the short-term, mid-term rental industry, they expect that money to come every single month. And yes, it's going to come. It takes time, but you better freaking have reserves. And if you're not starting a co-hosting business or this, you could put yourself in a position that is not favorable. In fact, that's happening all over the place right now in a lot of different places because people just aren't thinking about that. They're not thinking about, what do I need to have for reserves? What happens if my place doesn't get booked? They're watching YouTube videos, watching Instagram, people talking about $20,000, $30,000 a month. Yes, those are going to come, and those do happen, but they don't happen overnight. So what am I going to be able to do to cover my own ass if I need to for whatever reason? This is the business right here that can do that. So again, you guys will start to understand this. It will come through. It'll happen naturally, but you got to talk about it. You got to understand it. And you have to start realizing that there's a lot of opportunity of other landlords that don't want to do the work to make this happen. So that's where customer service and you come in. So I do believe there's a tremendous amount of opportunity right now. You heard Jeff talk about it earlier. In the next several years, there's going to be a massive boom. All the big companies, Evolve, Vacasa, all those guys, they don't midterm rent. They're not midterm rental co-hosts. They're not creating an actual business by going after these companies, building a Rolodex of actual people that need services and help. They don't do that. They're not going to want to mess with leases. They're not going to want to mess with those things. But that's going to be what is going to change you from everybody else. And us smaller operators in this room right now have the biggest opportunity that I've seen in a long time with co-hosting, especially if you're doing it the smart, intuitive way. What's up, guys? This video is sponsored by Relay, a business banking and money management platform. And I'm gonna be honest, starting out with the midterm rental world, budgeting was one of the toughest parts. There's so much to think about, like furnishing and maintenance and insurance, and even those little things like stocking the kitchen with essentials. What I learned is about having a system, and Relay can actually help you build one. Relay sets up separate accounts for every expense category. Think about like furnishing, utilities, reserves, you name it, and their smart transfer features let you automate savings for those just-in-case moments, because trust me, you are going to have them. Plus, you're not dealing with hidden fees or minimum balances, so your money actually stays where it belongs, and that is working for you. If you're ready to budget smarter on your first rental property, click the link in the description to get you started. Who's got questions? Anybody? No questions. Trevor, are you around anywhere, buddy, with that little dice thingy? Trevor's like, yeah, let me find it. He's going to get it. But anyway, I want you guys to think about questions right now, because I think, again, we want to make sure that we cover what you guys need in these questions as far as co-hosting goes, what it looks like, how it operates. So go ahead. Trevor's got no mic. Do you got a mic?
Hey, what's up, Jesse?
Hey.
This is more of a long-term question, because this is obviously a model that's working right now. But
yeah.
As the industry continues to evolve, because I started on the short-term rental side of things, and started at the very beginning, and then obviously everyone, like all the mom and pops, are now joining that market. So at some point, kind of like I've met so many people here that have this business, right? This co-hosting business where they're building like a network, a Rolodex of all these leads.
Yeah.
at some point, technology will catch up, right? And there will be a marketplace where, you know, the insurance companies or the companies that work for the insurance companies, like an ALE, will just go to that marketplace and find it rather than going to all the different co-hosts and being like, hey, what do you have in your network? So how do you see that evolving? Like, how far away are we from that situation happening? You know, how do people build a moat to protect themselves from that?
Yeah.
Like, if they're going to start to build out this co-host business, where do you see that going?
Yeah, I have a couple different thoughts on this. You're talking about insurance, temporary housing right now, right? Sure. Yeah, anything, is that what you were talking about? I feel like that's going to happen in the future, but I think relationships right now are the most important thing. I think relationships are the new currency, whether that's you hosting insurance temporary housing claim, the relationships that you're building with the specialist, those are going to outdo anything. And I can tell you that now as a personal experience, and there's a lot of people in these rooms that I know that are doing this exact same thing. They've had relationships, some of them over 30 years. And guess what? If those platforms do come up, they're still going to connect with them because they have relationships. They go a lot further. I haven't really thought about that too much in depth as far as like a marketplace that'll come eventually, something like that. I just haven't really thought that far into it, so I can't give you an answer on that. But I do believe that having solid relationships that you are able to build, and again, building relationships is about serving other people. That's where I feel a relationship comes from. You're doing something for somebody else without expectation of anything in return. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how I built my business. Is that I was able to start connecting with people. I didn't ask for anything. I went out and asked, like, what's the most difficult claim you have? What's been sitting on your desk for 3 weeks? Like, that's the client that I want. Let me try to fill that for you. And I think that a lot of times people aren't necessarily looking at it that way. They're looking for that buck now. I'm looking at the long-term relationship, which could be 3, 5, 7 years. Instead of making that $5,000 from that one door, and that's the one time that's going to happen with that claim, but that relationship is going to serve me 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x that over the next 10 years, 7 years, 5 years, whatever it is. So I'd encourage you all to think about the longevity of it rather than making $1 up front today. Yeah, it sounds cool to make $5,000, but you got to stretch that out. You want to have a long roadway to build a business, because essentially that's what we're doing in this space. We're building businesses. They're small businesses, but we're able to serve a lot of people by doing that. So relationships, I think, are the most important. Another question.
I got one right here.
Okay, so I'm in Portland, Oregon, and I get asked all the time about, managing someone else's MTRs, and it freaks me out because we're very unfriendly towards landlord-tenant law, but maybe how do I get over that kind of fear of the local laws or not?
I had the same issue too when I first started. I'm in California. Most of my properties are in California. I have places in Texas too. California, you could jump through somebody's window and become a tenant of that home. Like, literally. So one of the things for me that I was able to feel completely okay with is that I'm running background checks, but I'm also checking these people that are coming through, their workers. Like, this is the biggest difference, you guys. I'm not just like working with a one-off person. I'm actually talking to the companies that are building these people. So if there's 4 essential workers that are coming from, a windmill company, I'm actually calling the windmill company. They're a multi-million-dollar company. They're backing those employees that are in my place. Like, I feel comfortable knowing these guys aren't going to squat because they have somewhere to go. They're not going to be hanging out wherever they're at. They want to go back home to their families. They're here on assignment. And I think there's a big difference between those types of clients. It's a different type of feel that you get from those folks. Like Gallo Winery, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. I'm going to be going into the depth of like how to actually build those businesses with those relationships. But there's companies that they're backing you. They're actually on the lease, not the people that are there. The companies, these major corporations are on the lease. Like, I feel good knowing that I can go to sleep at night knowing somebody's not just going to stay at my home. And I grew up with the most difficult. That's what I watched. Trevor talked about in the intro today. I watched my family. My mom's over there. Her and my dad had property, and people would not pay rent. And my dad would say, "Oh, they got kids. They'll pay next month." And guess what that ended up turning to? Next month, the next month. Next thing I knew, I was in court as a 9-year-old, sitting in the back seat of a courthouse while my parents were literally, trying to get money from the people that were staying at their home. So I saw the ugliest side of real estate from day one. So I think you guys are kind of my therapists right now in this weird way. I think something's happening right now. Subconsciously, I was like, I don't actually want to rent to traditional people. I want to rent to companies because I won't have to deal with what mom and dad went through. And I love you, Mom, but they weren't thinking like a business. And you have to have that. You have to have that level of thinking like a business to a certain degree. I think my mom actually thought like a business, but my dad didn't. So, Mom, you're good, okay? Hope that answered your question. What else we got?
Thank you for answering that question, because I'm also from California, and it's just really hard to determine what law applies to. Is it short-term tenancy or long-term kind of thing with midterm? The second question I have
Wait, hang on a
was-
sec. Let's go to that one first. Just say my question is, and then say it.
So for midterm, does California tenant landlord applies, or is it more on the short-term rental?
Yeah, well, in California, if you stay more than 30 days, you're considered a tenant. That's the law in California. It's pretty much the law in a lot of places. So once somebody stays at your home for 30 days, they're considered a tenant. So yeah, that's again, right, what I just mentioned a minute ago, I like these companies because they're on assignment. The workers there are like, they want to go back home. They don't want to stay here forever. So they have somewhere to be. So again, for me, that's what I feel a little more comfortable with. And I'm not saying I never rented to an individual, because we have, but we do thorough background checks. We use KeyCheck, Avail. We make sure that we're taking care of those. We're doing the background checks and things. So we go deeper. We call those companies. We get a hold of the HR departments, which we've talked about before. I want to have a connection with those companies, because where are they going next? Guess what I'm able to do in my network or my mentorship? Cool, you're going to Phoenix? Mike, there you go. Or you're going over to North Carolina? Emily, here you go. So we have these abilities to create those relationships, and that's exactly what I've been doing, and how I was able to build the successful business is by those relationships that are being built. So again, you got to think outside of just your place being booked. I'm trying to curate something that's more important, that has longevity to it. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So in relation to that, situation is I tried to borrow in my traditional bank for a HELOC, and I'm one of those who accidentally went to midterm space without even knowing it, and I told them how I make money with the property, and the traditional banks said to me that this is considered short-term and they cannot lend me money because it's considered unstable and stuff like that. So so it's more like they're pushing me to go to long-term tenants property than, I don't know.
Yeah. I got to understand what you're saying. Like, I'm trying to follow you right now.
So the banks.
Say it like this. Say, my question is, and then just state your question.
Yeah, so my question is, how can you scale with this kind of business? Because traditional banks won't lend you money because they think it's not stable.
Yeah. There's banks out there that do that. Host Financial, there's a lot of companies that do think they will lend off midterm rentals. We're living in a time now where a lot of these banks are being more progressive, that are able to connect with people. They're able to loan money off that. In fact, my midterm rentals, some of the banks that I work with will actually loan off the income that we make off our properties that are midterm rentals. So you can totally do it. You just got to talk to the banks. I think a lot of people get stuck on like one or two lenders that they talk to. You got to talk to a lot of them. You got to see who's going to work with you. So that'd be my suggestion. Is there's definitely somebody out there to help you, for sure.
Jesse, my name is Sean. I'm from Chicago. Obviously, the landlord-tenant laws in California, New York, and Illinois are, not very friendly towards the investors. How many times in the last 9 years have you been able to do a master lease with the insurance, like with the entity who's paying the rent and not the tenant?
Yeah. So
Because I've tried it with ALE, I've tried it with HomeLink, and a couple of different companies to mitigate the risk, the tenant damaging or, any rental obligations. But they say the lease has to be between the landlord and the tenant and not with us.
Yeah. So you're saying that, I just want to reframe this question here. I'm trying to understand it. So you're having people that are renting with you, but they won't take, what won't they take? If you want to hand that mic back. I'm trying to understand the question here, sorry.
No, I should have done a better job. So whenever you rent to a midterm tenant, let's say the lead is coming from HomeLink, the lease is between you and the tenant, not between you and HomeLink or ALE or CRS or THT or any insurance relocation provider, correct? How many times have you been able to negotiate a master lease, like I call it a master lease?
Yeah. We do it all the time. I think a lot of times you have to ask this. I've even had some of the insurance companies that we worked with become the leasee. And the reason why I see this happen sometimes, if they can't find any claims or any other properties, and those are the requests that I ask, they'll have them happen. But yes, I have Gallo Winery that pays for 3 years. They're paying 3 years whether they have tenants in my property or not. Which one? Gallo Winery. I'll talk to you guys about it tomorrow. I'll go in a little bit deeper. So these companies are actually giving us leases for a long duration of time. This isn't 1 year, this is 3 years to house their engineers that are coming from out of the country. And when I first saw that happen, I'm going to talk about it tomorrow, but I was nervous about out of the country tenants. That's scary. But then there's a thing that I realized that they were all connecting with me on Furnish Finder, all these different people, and they worked with one company. And I put it together, called Gallo. And exactly what they said is like, hey, and Gallo's a winery company. How many of you know what Apothic wine is? You guys are winos over here, I know it. So that's the company that makes that, and we got a 3-year term. They're paying us 2.5x long-term rental rates for 3 years. So it's definitely possible. You just have to start looking at things in a different way. And tomorrow I'm going to break that down in a little bit detail. But yeah, we get a lot of those. It doesn't happen every time, and that's okay, but we're still able to build relationships. And I think that's what I want you guys to realize, that those relationships are most important. In co-hosting, relationships are what make or break. In fact, I just got a new client for co-hosting. She owns half of Modesto, California. I'm not kidding. Her family owns 500 properties. Just in a weekend, we got like 7 properties from her to co-host, literally. And when you pick up those people that are big investors, but they don't want to do this stuff, there's a lot of opportunity for you to co-host for them. So something to think about. But I hope I answered your question.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jesse Vasquez. Let him hear you. Come on, ladies and gentlemen.
As you guys seen in that video, co-hosting by far is one of the coolest and one of the greatest ways to make money in midterm rentals. And I can't tell you guys how I'm stressing this really, really profoundly and strong, that co-hosting will be the next 2.0 level of a lot of investors that are operating in this space, that are doing it by actually connecting with companies, by actually creating a network with other people. These are going to be the people that are standing outside of everybody else in the co-hosting space, because there's not any companies at all like Evolve or any of these big companies that are doing it now that are actually doing this with like connecting with companies and corporations and actually using those properties as a resource to be able to connect with these companies. And I think, again, going into 2025, 2026, if you are being very specific about who you're going after, there is a huge potential for growth in the midterm rental space, especially to build an actual legit multi-million-dollar co-hosting business, which I think is really, really doable. Anyway, if you want to learn more about how to actually do this, I'm holding the biggest, the baddest midterm rental summit on the planet. That's actually what you watched me speaking on. That was the stage last year. I can't tell you how important it is to be around people that are doing what we're doing. And most importantly, the connections that you make at these types of events are what actually separate you from everybody else. So if you want to join us, I would urge you to. April 27th through the 29th in San Diego. It's literally like not even that far away. So get your tickets. They are selling out fast. We sell out every single year. And by the time you guys are watching this, we probably only have about 50 tickets left. So I'd encourage you guys to pick one up, get in the right rooms, stop sitting on your hands, start creating something for yourself. Don't just listen to me talk about it. Show up there and see what I'm talking about. We'll see you in San Diego. Links in the description. Don't be late. Damn it. Did I record that? It says 0 here.